progressives bind together to fight President Trump, Minnesota Senator Al Franken is emerging as a real liberal hero. And after years of playing it straight in the Senate, the former Saturday Night Live star is finally deploying his secret weapon, humor. Here he is on what his Republican colleagues are telling him about President Trump.
Some will say that he's not right mentally. And then some are harsher.
That was Senator Franken on Real Time with Bill Maher, and he's here right now. Not Bill Maher, but Senator Franken. Thanks for joining us.
I'm with Jake Tapper.
So I know that was comedy, but is it true that Republican colleagues of yours express concern about President Trump's mental health?
A few.
Really?
Yeah. It's not the majority of them, it's a few.
In what way?
In the way that we all have this suspicion that, you know, that he lies a lot. He says things that aren't true. That's the same as lying, I guess. 3 to 5 million people voted illegally. There was a new one about people going in from Massachusetts to New
Thousands
Hampshire.
and thousands in a bus, yeah.
Yeah, and, that is not the norm for a president of the United States or actually for a human being.
So let's turn to Michael Flynn. The Washington Post and CNN are reporting that he, according to many government officials, spoke to the Russian ambassador about the Obama sanctions against Russia before President Trump took office, suggesting, hold on there, we'll revisit them after we take office. House Minority Leader Pelosi tweeted last night, General Flynn should be suspended and have his intelligence clearance revoked. Do you agree? What do you think the consequences should be?
Well, either he was lying about not having discussed that or he forgot.
You don't believe your smile says you don't believe that he forgot.
I don't think you want a guy who would forget that. Your national security advisor would forget that he was talking about lifting the sanctions with a Russian ambassador. I don't think you want a guy in either of those scenarios to be in that position.
But it's not a Senate confirmable position, so what can you do and what do you think should happen?
Look, there's going to have to be investigations and an independent investigation into the Trump campaign and the Trump administration's relationship to Russia. Russia interfered in this campaign. We know that, although Trump denied it for a long time. We have not seen the president's income tax. His son said a few years ago that an inordinate amount of money was coming in from Russia, investing in them. The president said that he couldn't release his income tax because he was under audit. You can release your income tax when you're under audit. And also, he hasn't provided any proof that he was under audit. There is a lot here that we need to look at, and we need to have an independent investigation on it.
When you say independent, what do you mean? Independent counsel? Select committee?
I think an independent counsel would be terrific, but I know that Lindsey Graham and Sheldon Whitehouse and Judiciary are doing hearings and an investigation. I trust those guys. There's something going on in intelligence, but that is so opaque. We need something transparent, and we need an investigation because we don't know what he owes Russia. We don't know how many Russian oligarchs have invested in his business. We don't know. He has sidled up to Putin in so many ways. What he's doing in Syria is great.
Yeah.
He didn't, annex Crimea, going after NATO. There's something. He's got a bit of a Putin crush, and I want to know how much of that is tied to maybe financial strings.
Let's turn to the president's travel ban. According to the Department of Justice, ISIS recruitment efforts have targeted the Somali community in your home state of Minnesota. If we know ISIS is targeting the refugee population or immigrant population in the Twin Cities, does it make sense to put in some kind of new and more thorough vetting system, even if you don't agree with the travel ban?
Well, the people that ISIS has targeted and those people in the Somali community and our vibrant Somali community in Minnesota, they have, in a few cases, gone back to Somalia to fight with Shabab, and they've gone to Syria to fight with ISIS. That's just a couple handfuls. This is not what it appears to be. In that I just got a 4-year-old girl, and this is what we're talking about, who was supposed to come in on January 31st to join her family, and her mom and 2 older sisters. And
From Somalia?
From Uganda, where she was in a refugee camp. I actually called General Kelly. He helped do that. I'm very grateful for him doing that. That's who's being hurt here. Now, this 4-year-old had been vetted for 5 years. And she was...
How could she be vetted for 5 years if she's 4?
That was a joke.
Okay.
But I'm saying a 4-year-old is not...
Right, I got it.
Yeah. It's just... And I agree with Senator McCain and Senator Graham that actually this kind of ban makes us less safe, because it gives a recruiting tool to ISIS and to other jihadists, saying that America is anti-Muslim. The Syrian refugees, they are fleeing terror. Terror is, the whole point of terror is to make you afraid.
Right.
I think that Trump and his group are trying to make Americans more afraid. I think that's part of how they got elected, just make us more afraid.
You're accusing the president of terrorism by scaring people?
Just because the purpose of terrorism is to make you afraid, and the president has tried to make people afraid, doesn't mean he's involved with...
Right, okay. I wanted to define the language. That's all. I want to turn to Senator Elizabeth Warren and the increasingly prominent role she's playing in the Democratic Party. Let me show you what President Trump said about her this week. He was meeting privately with 10 senators at the White House, and he told the Democrats in the room, Pocahontas is now the face of your party. That's an obvious reference to the controversy over Elizabeth Warren's claim of Native American heritage. What's your response when you see that Pocahontas is now the face of your party?
I heard this from a couple of my colleagues who were there, and I would have said something. I mean, I'm not...
What would you have said?
I said, Mr. President, with all due respect, that's racist. Please stop doing that. I'm on Indian Affairs. This is completely unacceptable. You really should stop doing this. It doesn't serve anybody. Something like that.
I want to ask you a question about Betsy DeVos, the newly confirmed education secretary, who you voted against. You were a very strong voice against her. She was physically blocked by protesters, I think they were teachers, D.C. teachers, from entering a public school in Washington, D.C. on Friday. So I know you opposed her, and you don't think that she is going to be a good Secretary of Education. But shouldn't she have the right to walk into a D.C. public school? I mean, shouldn't that be something that we embrace?
Yes. And it would have been her first time ever in a public school.
Is that true?
No, I don't know.
Last question.
But no, she should be able to go into, she should be able to do her job. They should not prevent her from doing her job that way. I thought she was the least qualified nominee I've ever seen. The hearing was embarrassing.
With all this buzz, I want to
ask... She's a secretary now.
She's Secretary of Education.
I'm eager to work with her.
With all the buzz about the possibility of you running for president, and there is buzz out there, I'm sure you've heard it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a personal question.
Yes.
Is there ever a time when you hear this buzz and you're at home, you look in the mirror, and you say to yourself, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Maybe I should be president?
No, that's never happened. That has never happened. But I appreciate the shout out to my character, Stuart Smalley, which is an extremely popular character on Saturday night.
Senator Franken, thank you so much for being here. Always good to have you, sir.
Jake.
Good to see you. Have a good Sunday.